Hi, I'm Jamey from Stonemeyer Games, and I usually talk about my favorite mechanism in tabletop games, but someone did recommend a mobile game to me for when I was taking a recent trip. I needed something to do on the plane. They recommended a game to me called Dawncaster. And I played it for about an hour, which is how long I usually play digital games. If you're looking for a full digital overview or review of this game, that isn't what this is. But I did play a little bit of the game, and I really enjoyed it, especially from a deck building perspective. There's a lot in this game, and here I'll pull up an image so you can see what the game looks like. This is kind of the mobile view of the game. There's a lot of great decisions in this game, and a lot of great keywords and mechanisms for deck building games in the style of Slay the Spire, but I think they could carry over to tabletop games as well. For example, with one of the characters I played, they had an ambush ability, or many of their cards had an ambush ability. And what that meant was if the ambush card was the first card you played on your turn, it got a little boost. So I thought that was clever, that the order of the cards you played mattered for certain cards. I tried another character as well that had, I forget what it was actually called, but you could build up this special resource, and when you had enough of it, it had a big payoff of things you could do. There are also concepts of critical hits that I liked, but in general, and so I would recommend in general, if you were designing a deck building game, I think Dawncaster is a great game to go through and see how some of the mechanisms work. It has this first person perspective where you have an encounter. Sometimes you have a choice. Here's an example of that choice. Oh, no, that's not an example. Here's the example of a character that you can gain. Here's an example of a choice. Like, are you choosing to attack someone in your way? Are you choosing to go to camp? Here's another character that you could deal with, or another combatant that you can play with. Sometimes there's also a way to gain new cards just by taking these paths that you're taking. But overall, I think my favorite mechanism in the game are the use of 3 different resources to play cards. Here's an example of it right now. So many of the cards that you have this gray resource, which means it's wild. You can use any resource to play this card. To play this card, you need to use 1 resource. However, some of them have colors on them. So this card looks like you can use a green or a red resource twice. And you can see right here, I only have 1 red resource available. So I can't play either of these cards this turn that require 2 resources. But I really like this subsystem of cards that you can't just pay the same resource for any card. There are certain cards that can only be played with a certain type of resource. And there are even certain cards that give you more of that resource. In fact, this green card is a good example. If you play this green card, you gain 1 green resource. And by doing that, you could then play this great bow, or whatever the name of this card is. I think that is a really clever system. Here's some more examples of cards that have a certain resource. This is the green resource that you can gain. So I know in tabletop games, we have plenty of systems that use different resources, but it isn't all that common in a deck building game that cards that you play have a cost. Usually you pay a cost when you gain the card, but not as often when you actually play the card. And so I think adding this cost and adding this additional subsystem of different types of costs give you a sense of customization to your deck, and a strong sense of power at certain times where you have a special card that can only be played with a certain type of resource, and you manage to get that resource and can then play that card. That feels really satisfying in this game. And also, as your deck gets a mix of different resources and cards that use different resources, there's a great decision space there of which card am I going to play at any given time when I could be using these resources for multiple different cards. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the core mechanism of Dawncaster that I really like. But again, I didn't go that deep into the game. I probably will continue to play it from time to time on mobile. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts. If you've gone much deeper, if you found any mechanism that you think are worth considering for us tabletop gaming designers, if you think we should think about them, especially with deck building games, but also in general. Let me know about that in the comments below. Thanks.